Hello, we are now going to be talking about World War One. So World War One was actually an issue between two countries, which was Austria-Hungary. That used to be just one big empire, and then there was also Serbia. So they actually there was a conflict between these two nations on like who would be ruling certain territories. So they fought. And if you ever know anything, like whenever you have a group of friends and one of them gets in the argument with another friend, you have sometimes end up taking a side. So like that they got an argument with this person. Now, like if you're friends with this person, like all of your other friends are gonna be friends with this person. And then if you're friends with Serbia, then if you're friends with their friends, then you're going to be friends with Serbia instead of the other way around. So Austria's had a big friend. Their friend was Germany. Serbia had friends. They were friends with Russia. But because of like with Facebook, friends of friends, like Russia was already a strong nation, but not only did they have the backing of Russia, they also had the backing of Russia's friends, which was France, Great Britain, and Belgium, kind of being like neutral, but kind of not really neutral. That was also another example where you're able to leverage your connections. So because of these two countries going into war, all of these other countries got dragged in. And World War One is not as, at that time it was very devastating and it did cause a lot of destruction. But what is remembered today is World War Two. But for its time period, there was a lot of technological advances. This was the early 1900s. Machinery, factories, they were just becoming just much more advanced. Instead of having muskets, people were actually having artillery. There was being weapons of mass destruction were starting to be developed, mustard gas, all these horrible weapons of war are being developed. So let's talk about Great Britain and Germany. So Serbia's friend was Great Britain, and then their other friend was Germany. So when there were arguments, if the friends of the two people who are in disagreement, they also might get into a fight. This is how most high school drama sometimes comes into play. So then the biggest contenders at the time was Great Britain and Germany. Great Britain's main advantage, and seemed to be short on a piece of paper, so I'll just do... Yikes. I need to use a different paper. Oh, yeah. Great Britain had the long-standing navy. Remember, this is how Great Britain was able to have extend their borders onto like the original 13 colonies, into India, into like different parts of Africa. But Germany was taking advantage of the industrial revolution, and they came up with the innovative U-boat, which is basically a submarine. You could basically go underwater. You won't have to worry about being capsized like a normal ship. So Great Britain was banking on its long-standing strengths. But here's the issue, especially when like there's day and age of innovation, if you're just depending on just like a main staple, meaning what was your biggest strength, and like just leave it at that and don't try to like improve yourself, you're gonna be left behind. And this is exactly what happened with Germany. Germany started like catching up. The same thing happens like with technology. If you guys all remember Blackberries, they were just a big giant, but then iPhone came in and just completely obliterated them because they kept on doing new things instead of just depending on people to like stay happy with what was. Same concept applies. So the main issue here between Great Britain and Germany, since they were on different sides of the war, Germany had kept on attacking different British fleets. I mean, they're at war, that's what happens. There was a big issue with a ship called the Lusitania. So this was a passenger ship, but it had been kind of funded by the British Navy. It's like, hey, this is a passenger ship, but if we ever go into war or anything, we want to make this ship ready to be used for military purposes, just in case. I mean, there really won't be passengers if everything's like in a really dire war, so it works out. So it was a British passenger ship. So this was actually, not only was it agreed that it would be a warship in case, it was actually retrofitted as a warship. And not only did it have that capability, it's kind of like driving like an armored car. You have the option of using it for war purposes, but it was actually smuggling weapons and supplies. That just kind of like just throws it into a different category of embarrassment, because now it is literally being involved in the war. You cannot be considered a passenger ship if it is actually contributing to the war by smuggling weapons, by helping the war effort. They're effectively an enemy of Germany. So what any nation would do is that's free real estate, and just attacked it. Now here they attacked it, and that's not where the biggest issue laid. It was that Germany did not follow certain rules. It's like, oh, okay, so it's cool that it was smuggling things, and like it wasn't all the other nations understood and agreed, okay, yeah, they were smuggling things. Fair game, if you attack it. I mean, they're truly also, they're acting the war effort. It only makes sense if Germany would retaliate. But Germany had previously declared the water around the British Isles, which is like the heartland or the motherland of Great Britain. Did the camera focus? As a war zone. And everything is fair and love and war. Which means they no longer had to follow international laws. So submarines were pretty new at this point. And here, in this situation, Germany said, like, why are we going to notify them that we're coming here to attack them? Yeah, that would only be fair if, like, you wanted to avoid crashing. But if this is war, you're not going to say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and shoot you. Doesn't really work that way. If you give people time to prepare, they'll retaliate. So this was already like one issue right here. But the biggest issue, and now this is where it makes more sense to us who weren't living in that time period, is the passengers were not, because there was no warning, the passengers could not be warned ahead so that they could go ahead and evacuate before the attack. So, like, yes, it's fair if you, like, destroy the ship because it is smuggling weapons and supplies, but there were innocent passengers aboard that were killed. Germany at this point said, well, they're in a war zone, according to, like, our documents, so we don't want to jeopardize ourselves either, because we don't know what's the capacity. I mean, you never really know your enemy's full capacity, so you will err on the side of caution. Of course. I mean, this is a huge danger when you're trying to smuggle things, when you have innocent people involved. This becomes collateral damage, and that just becomes very messy very quickly. another issue is that Lusitania had United States citizens on it. So Germany had effectively attacked, in a way, the United States. So a lot of anti-German sentiment rose in the United States. So if there were people who were German, they were like, there was a lot of resentment towards them, even though they weren't the ones who bombed the passenger ship. They were related to that country. That's actually why you see in different areas of the United States that there's actually different regions. Some people were relocated and we see this happen in the United States time and time again. We actually see this in World War II, where Japanese citizens, or even of people who had heritage from Japan, were like removed from their homes and then like just put in different areas. It was kind of like a softer version of a concentration camp, but that later. We're still in World War One. So that was kind of like the spark of like the United States getting involved in the war. If you notice right here, United States was like, dude, I'm not even on the same continent. United States was like in a whole nother continent on North America. This was happening. This was a European problem, and that's how the United States wanted to stay. They wanted to stay neutral, but things kept on happening that the United States just said, you know what, we gotta get involved. So, first strike, May 7th, 1915. You don't need to know the exact date. Just kind of know the importance of it. Beauty of social studies. It is not like math. You do not need to memorize numbers. You just got to know concepts, ideas, and even if you forget something, you kind of just use your knowledge of like human behavior in order to like apply what can happen. Then, just a few months later, another boat was sunk, but this was also sunk by the German Navy or German warships. So then, as a reaction, President Woodrow Wilson said, like, "Yo, Germany, like, can't have you sinking these passenger ships no more. Like, they're not warships. Innocent people are dying. Like, you need to give a warning." He wasn't mad that they were attacking the ships. He was mad that they were attacking the ships and not giving a warning. If you can't warn someone that the ship's about to crash, they're not going to get in the lifeboat, so they're going to drown. So, and President Wilson threatened Germany that they would just cut all diplomatic ties with Germany if they kept on doing it, and that they would even go ahead and fight against Germany. It's like, bro, like, don't do this. These are the bad things that are going to happen. It's just going to get worse. We're going to become enemies. Please, please, please don't do this. All right. Germany says, all right. Fair enough. I won't be sinking ships. I'll like give people a warning. Okay. As well as you know, World War I did happen, and the United States did get involved. So we know that Germany went back on its word. Let's wait for a little bit, and boom. 2 years later, a little less than 2 years, there's something called the Zimmermann telegram. This is actually very shocking. When I've gone over history classes with Mexican nationals, they don't know about the Zimmermann telegram. The Zimmermann telegram, Zimmermann, that's a German name, by the way. The foreign office, or like the foreign relations in Germany, contacted the embassy in Mexico, saying like, hey, what do you think of doing an alliance with Germany and Mexico? And if the United States does decide to get in the war against Germany, then Mexico would be an ally and attack the United States. Well, I don't think Mexico had time to respond because secret spies had intercepted the telegram and informed the United States, like, yo, Germany's trying to play dirty with your neighbor. I mean, United States is right here, Mexico's right below. They're bringing the war to the United States. And just seeing how Mexico had been in a war against the United States before, or also been allies at one point. It was just a very complicated history. The United States said, like, you know what? No. Because military alliance with Germany and Mexico was just too close for comfort. And it even said, Germany told Mexico, like, yo, you can regain Texas, you can regain Arizona and New Mexico. You can gain back all those other territories you lost. And the final little straw was that it said that it would go back to not warning people before attacking, and also attacking passenger ships with innocent lives on board, which would lead to the death of lots of innocent people. So essentially here, Germany was already, if they hadn't already, they were already planning on breaking their promise. And just like any good like drama TV series, when a person's already like thinking about it, it just causes a whole problem. So this is it. It went from American lives dying on a ship as collateral damage between a war between Great Britain and Germany, but it wasn't really their issue. They're just helping out a buddy. But you know, the friend of my enemy is my enemy. Same thing. Well, I was talking about deaths and people dying. Let's talk about something positive. We're going to be talking about Marie Curie. Marie Curie, you might also know her from discovering radiation. She was alive during this time period, and she contributed much to saving lives. It's like, oh, what does radiation have to do with saving lives? You know, it's not really in the healthcare field. Well, check this out. Yes, she did win the Nobel Peace Prize, but she designed, we use radiation for X-ray. So when, you know, we weren't using little muskets anymore, we were now using bullets. Not we, but during World War I, bullets were being used. In order to like take out these bullets, remember some of them might have been made of lead, or in order to identify like, oh, is there something that needs to be removed. Remember, a foreign body, if it's like if you can see my veins here, like if that's being blocked by maybe a bullet, then maybe I might lose this hand because there's no blood flow, things of that nature. If you're able to do an X-ray, you're able to find the metal because it'll show up in the X-ray, or you'll also be able to identify broken bones. So like with broken bones, like when they break, depending how they break, if they're not put back in line together like this with proper splinting and like putting it inside of a cast, if they're just left like this, you're gonna get an infection in your bone called osteomyelitis, and also you'll bleed out because your bone marrow is responsible for making red blood cells. So you need to put that back together. So this actually has saved a lot of lives. So she actually designed mobile X-ray units, and she actually also trained a lot of other women in reading these X-rays in order to like determine. So she basically not only discovered radiation, but she made radiology. Isn't that just so cool? Like, I mean, now we have to go to the doctor to get an X-ray done, but they were bringing the X-ray machines to the battlefield, or at least to the sightlines, so wounded soldiers could be examined. Because of this, over 1 million X-rays were performed. I know 1 million might not sound something so amazing, but remember, our population back then was a lot lower, so 1 million X-rays is a big deal. This might have even been the first time anyone had ever received an X-ray for the soldiers. So she saves countless lives. So yes, in times of war, there's a lot of advancements and like weaponry, but there's also a lot of advancements in healthcare that we can enjoy to this day. For example, with X-rays, we can now determine if someone has been exposed or is a carrier of tuberculosis. Like, what? That's like a respiratory infection. What does it have to do with X-rays? It's the beauty of it. It's just how one scientific innovation is able to, lead to another. So, ending up with World War I, something I do want to leave you with is, just get another color just to label this. So these were the Allies. And then over here with Germany, Austria, and so we want to put here. Let me get a different color. This would be the Ottoman Empire. Like, what country is that? Like, well, it doesn't exist anymore today. These were called the Central Powers. We end up seeing the word Allies used again in World War II, but we see something else called the Axis, or Axis, as the opponent for the Allies. Going back over here to World War I. So this war, there was a lot of technological innovation. So this led to, I wouldn't say better, but deadlier weaponry. Also, like, this is where like planes started being used in wars because the Wright brothers had developed aircraft. And also in the case of Marie Curie, we had improved healthcare. So yes, the balance of deadly weaponry is kind of what triggered the need for better healthcare. I mean, 2,000 years ago, people didn't have to deal with long-range bullets or long-range bombs or being attacked from overhead with like a plane flying by and like shooting bullets. That's very new. You need to have very new strategies to protect yourself or to recover from that. So need is the mother of invention. So this war, nonetheless, it was highly destructive. It was very devastating. And it was even called the Great War. Like you say, it's the Great War. It's like everyone knew what it meant because that was just like the biggest war that ever happened at that time. Like so many different countries were involved with it. In it, there was like war like happening on like so many different fronts. It was like all throughout the continent of Europe. It was just crazy. It was also called the War to end all wars? Well, we know that's a lie because we get World War II, and in fact, World War I kind of creates some of the situations that caused World War II. So that did not happen. It was indeed the Great War, but there's part 2 was gonna come soon. But because of this war, like people, a lot of men were dying because back then the soldiers were men. This caused just so many issues, and it had started off with like the booming 20s, and then we actually started having problems like the Great Depression, and I'll go ahead and cover that in just a different video. So just know World War I, it was just a big mess. 2 people got in an argument, all of their friends got involved, and then they got dragged into it. So if we can learn anything from World War I, if your friends get into a fight, don't pick a side. Try to stay neutral. You won't be caught in the crossfire, and you won't lose any damages. Looking back, if those countries could like change their decision on supporting, they might have, but we never know because this is history. We're looking at it in the past, but this can teach us future lessons.